20th place Queen's Park Rangers host 19th place Oxford United on Wednesday evening at Loftus Road. So I caught up with my good friend Joe Citrone to get his thoughts on how the U's have fared this season so far, how Des Buckingham sets his side up, and who the key players are to watch out for. If you're not already subscribed to Hoopsa or following on the platform of your choice and you enjoy this preview, please consider doing so, and let's jump straight into it. Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Obviously, we're here to talk today about QPR versus Oxford United this Wednesday evening. So let's start off with talking about Oxford United's season so far. Started the season brightly with 3 wins from your first 5. It's now 4 without a win since the international break, and I think just 1 win from 13. So talk me through your season so far.
Yeah, I mean, you've summed it up there well there. I think, obviously got off to a start that I think was way above anybody's expectations. Obviously, we started it with a win against Norwich. Seems like everyone beats Norwich. Um, but we started off with a great win, which obviously I think you're thinking about that fixture as them being a team that has just been in the playoffs. You're thinking we could be dealt a bit of a lesson here on the first game of the season, and we turn up and win, and then we get a couple of other impressive wins. And if a few good performances, and we're sitting sort of mid-table and thinking, wow, it's not too bad, this championship lark. It seems like not too difficult, but I think we're finding out quickly now that it is pretty difficult. Um, but I think, to be fair, although you're right, the form on paper looks pretty bad. Um, we've not won many games recently, and we obviously were dealt a few footballing lessons by Middlesbrough and Sheffield United in the last couple of weeks. But I still think if you look at where we are in the league table, after the amount of games that we've played, I think most people probably would have taken it. I think if you look at our infrastructure, our budget, our attendances, and everything in comparison to the rest of the league, we are pretty much by every metric the smallest club in the league. So this season really is about just surviving. And at the moment, we're on course for that, but we obviously need to start picking up a few more wins for sure.
Yeah, of course. And your season last season could have very easily been upended by Liam Manning's departure last November, but Des Buckingham still led the club to promotion via the playoffs. So what is he like as a manager, and how does he tend to set Oxford United up?
I think he's the classic kind of modern coach, really, who's come through the school of coaching at the City Football Group, which is the same way that Liam Manning sort of got his breakthrough, coaching as part of the City Football Group in Belgium. And Des obviously is somebody who's had such a really interesting coaching journey. Started off as sort of coming through our academy as a player before moving into coaching, working his way all the way up through to first team coach before moving on and going over to New Zealand, where he was I think he became the youngest ever manager in the Australian leagues, and obviously ended up in India, managing Mumbai. So he's had a really sort of weird but quite interesting coaching journey. But he's pretty cool, calm and collected. Focuses really on the methods and the tactics. Isn't much of a ranter and raver on the touchline, and probably not going to explode with any particular rants in press conferences or anything like. He's pretty level headed. But obviously he's got that connection with the club because he's grew up in the area, grew up supporting the club. There's a really lovely video piece they did the other day with his dad, who's a lifelong Oxford fan. So he's kind of a fan's dream, really, in terms of the manager that he is. Someone who's level-headed, who's a good coach, tactically really sound, but also has an amazing connection with the fans as well. And the fact that we obviously won promotion at Wembley last season with him in charge, after so many sort of near misses and attempts at trying to get out of League One, it was him that managed to get us over the line. Was a bit of a fairy tale, really. And I think he's adapted pretty well to the Championship. Obviously, he's been dealt a few football lessons. I mean, this is his first time managing at this level. This time last year he was managing in India. Now he's managing in the Championship. We know it's going to be tougher, but he's doing okay. He's going along nicely, and I think he's absolutely got the backing of everybody at Oxford United, all the fans and everybody. Absolutely love him, and I think he's the real hope for our survival. Is if we keep him in charge, because I think that's probably the concern is that big clubs might start circling in the same way that what happened with Manning last season. But we can keep him, we give ourselves a good chance. He's a pretty good manager who's got a high ceiling, I think.
And which players should QPR be worried about? Who's really stood out this season so far?
Well, I think obviously the obvious way. I mean, really the players that have performed well for us this season are the ones that have been doing good work for us. Obviously in League One, who stepped up. I think Tyler Goodrum is kind of our jewel in the crown, really, our young star, who again is somebody who's come from the local area, come through the academy. A really nice story. The way he's sort of developed, and he's really kicking on to something really exceptional, I think, and I'm really excited to see where he goes. He scored obviously in our last game, scored a great equalising goal against Millwall. He's really a brilliant player, really low centre of gravity, really good tricky skills, but most of all can absolutely whack them in from 25 yards. And obviously Cam Brannigan as well. I think he's recently come back from injury, which is a big boost for us because I think midfield was kind of one of those areas where, whilst he was out injured, we never quite got the configuration of that midfield right, and we were missing him badly. So the fact he's back in the mix now, I mean, he's just by far and away our most influential player. I think when he plays well, we tend to play well. So I think those are the two players. Obviously, Mark Harris got off to a great start this season, but has kind of dropped off a little bit. But we've got Dane Scarlett, who's started a few games recently on loan from Spurs. And to be fair, there's a few raised eyebrows when we signed him because he hadn't really done much at this level. But he's actually looking pretty handy actually, and I think he'll probably start on Wednesday. And yeah, hopefully he'll be among the goals.
And what about your weaknesses? You mentioned that midfield was sort of a problem area while Brannigan was out injured. Where else has been a problem?
Well, I mean, defensively, particularly in those two games against Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, I mean, it was a nightmare for us. We were getting carved open far too easily. I think in the last game against Millwall, it's difficult to judge because I think once Millwall scored, they kind of sat off a little bit and didn't really test us massively, that defense. But we looked a lot more solid with Elliot Moore coming back in, who's our captain, who was suspended for the Sheffield United game. And we should have Peter Kioso back in. He's been out for the last couple of games. He's an important player at right back. But we obviously lost Ben Nelson, who was on loan from Leicester, who looked really promising. So I think we're still figuring that out defensively. We've got some good players back there, but we've been carved open. Particularly against Sheffield United and Middlesbrough. Look at those score lines. You can see where the weaknesses lie. Um, Going forward, I think the way that we want to play relies on really good wingers. And while Sariki Dembele has been injured, as he still is injured, it's a bit of a theme now going on about injuries all the time, but it has been a bit of a problem for us. Sariki's been out injured, and we're missing a little bit of that spark in the final third with any of our wingers. I think we've got Matt Phillips who's come in, we've got Paqueta who's come in recent weeks, back from injury again, but they're not quite making it work at the moment. So I think we might have Kyle Edwards back for Wednesday, hopefully. He's somebody who's got pace and likes to run at players, and I think that'll help us a little bit. But it feels weird saying both defensively and going forward are our weaknesses. Doesn't sound very promising, but we've got a few things to work out. That's for sure. But hopefully it'll come together on Wednesday night.
Now, QPR haven't played Oxford United in the league at Loftus Road since 1999, which was a 1-0 home win courtesy of Robert Steiner. So, to round us off, let's get your score prediction for Wednesday night.
Oh, shall I go 5 or 6 nil Oxford? No. No, I think to be honest, I think most people at the moment, I mean, we need to win a game at some point. We haven't won away from home all season. So we need to win one eventually. I know that'll probably strike fear into every QPR fan listening that we haven't won away from home. I think I'll take a point at this stage. I think the last game against Millwall, we managed to battle to a draw. We're still trying to get ourselves back on an even keel after obviously a tricky run of form. So I'll go 1-1.
Great. Okay, Joe. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Good luck after Wednesday.
Very big thanks once again to Joe for joining me for this preview, and do make sure you give him a follow on Twitter or Blue Sky via the links in the description below. With QPR and Oxford United on level points currently, with QPR having played one more game, this is another big opportunity to continue the real progress we've made over the past 4 games, and that's exactly why we'll need to make sure it is not a banana skin after that good result over Norwich last Saturday. Des Buckingham's side aren't in the best form at all, but they have beaten the likes of Norwich themselves at the start of the season. They've ground out draws with the likes of Luton, West Brom and Burnley, so they're not going to be pushovers, and as Joe said, they've got some important players having just returned from injury. They've also had a bit more rest than Rangers, with their match at Plymouth Argyle having been postponed over the weekend, though that can sometimes be a negative as well. QPR wise, I suspect Sam Field will be returning following his suspension, likely in place of Kieran Morgan. And with no senior strikers available unless Mickey Frey is in the squad for this one, I imagine Ryan Colley will be starting up front with any luck. And as I said before, Norwich, if we can keep up that level of performance and that level of intensity, then I like to think that we'll be able to get a result here. So in terms of score prediction, I'm going confident again. I'm going for a second consecutive win. I'm going to go 2-1 Rangers. Let me know your own score predictions and thoughts in the comments below, and I'll hopefully see you again for my match reaction on Thursday. Come on, you Oz.